What if I told you the most important truth about life is something you will only see at the very end, and the truth nobody talks about? The truth that hits you when there's no more time to change anything. Most of us live as if tomorrow is guaranteed, chasing things that look important now, but mean nothing when the clock runs out. And here's the part people wish they knew sooner: you don't need to wait until your final days to discover what truly matters. I'm not here to talk about cliches. I'm here to share something raw, something real, the kind of end-of-life wisdom people whisper about in hospital rooms, in quiet, late-night conversations, or in the last pages of their journals. This isn't just another life lesson video. This is the truth that no one sees coming until it's too late. And before you scroll away, think about this. What would you do differently if you knew exactly how your story ends? Would you still waste your best years proving yourself to people who don't even notice? Would you still put off the dreams that have been sitting in your heart for decades? If you're between 25 and 65, you're in the middle chapters of your life. You might feel like there's plenty of time left, but that's exactly what blinds us. The most powerful life shifts happen when you see reality clearly, without the illusion of someday. In this video, I'll walk you through the shocking truth about life that's waiting for you at the very end, and how knowing it now could change everything: your priorities, your relationships, and the way you wake up every single morning. So, stay with me until the last second. Because the final truth about life, it's not about death at all. It's about finally learning how to live. You know, there's a moment many people talk about in their final days. They call it a life review. It's not a mystical vision, not some Hollywood montage. It's a raw, unfiltered replay of your life. You see yourself not through your own eyes, but almost as an observer. The choices you made, the moments you let slip by, the conversations you wish you had, and the opportunities you were too afraid or too busy to take. This isn't fantasy. Hospice workers and palliative care nurses have heard these reflections countless times. Bronnie Ware, an Australian nurse who spent years caring for people in their final weeks, documented something that shook the world: the top regrets of the dying. They weren't about money status or trophies. They were about love left unspoken, dreams left unchased, and the constant pressure to live by someone else's expectations. Imagine this: you're lying in a quiet hospital room. Outside, life goes on: cars passing by, kids playing, people rushing to work. Inside, time is different. You start to replay your life. And suddenly, what you thought mattered doesn't matter at all. That promotion you obsessed over, forgotten. That argument you refused to let go of, pointless. But the weekend you skipped seeing your parents because you were too busy, that memory burns. Here's the part most of us miss. You don't have to wait until the end to have this awakening. You can have your life review now while there's still time to rewrite the ending. When you're young, you feel like life is endless. Even in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, there's this quiet belief that you have plenty of time. But the reality, you're living the only moments you'll ever get right now. The shock comes when people finally realize the real currency of life isn't money. It's time. And not just any time, quality time with the people and passions that matter most. In those final moments, no one says, "I wish I'd spent more time at the office." They say, "I wish I'd spent more time with the people I love." The truth is, we live as if our calendars are infinite, until they're not. And when you see that limit, it changes everything. The urgency to forgive, the courage to pursue what lights you up, the clarity to stop wasting time on what doesn't feed your soul. Let me tell you about John, a successful attorney in his 60s. His whole life was a race: court cases, billable hours, climbing the ladder. When cancer hit, the first thing he said wasn't about his career. It was, I don't know my grandchildren. I've been a stranger to my own family. Or Mary, a nurse who spent decades caring for others but always put her own dreams aside. On her deathbed, she told her daughter, "I thought there'd be more time to see the world." Now I can only imagine it. These aren't just sad stories. They're wake-up calls, proof that the shocking truth about life is not that it ends, but that we wait too long to start living it fully. At the end, people experience two emotions at the same time. Regret for the chances they didn't take. Awakening for finally seeing what matters. It's a strange mix of sorrow and clarity. And here's the secret that clarity is available now if you're willing to look for it. You don't need a terminal diagnosis to call someone you've been avoiding. Start that creative project you've been shelving. Spend a quiet afternoon doing absolutely nothing with the people who matter most. If your life review started today, what moments would stand out? Would you be proud, or would you wish you had more time to make things right? Here's the reality: you do have time right now, but it's shrinking with every day you assume you'll get to it later. So here's my challenge for you. Don't wait until the end to learn the truth about life. Live as if you've already seen your final review, and you're rewriting it while you still can. When people reach the very end, the noise of life fades. The competition, the deadlines, the social expectations, they all become background static. And what's left, the part that truly matters, is shockingly simple. Ask anyone in their final moments about their proudest memories, and you'll rarely hear them say, "That time I worked 70 hours a week," or "that time I closed the biggest deal." Instead, they talk about the people they loved, the laughter they shared, and the connections that carried them through the storms of life. One man I met in his late 80s told me I spent half my life proving I was successful. The other half, I was trying to fix the relationships I neglected while proving it. The truth is, relationships are the real currency of life. They are what make our stories worth telling. So here's the question. Are you investing more in your LinkedIn profile than in the people who would sit beside your hospital bed? We all know the saying, time is money. But at the end, people realize money can be made again. Time cannot. Think about it: we guard our wallets more than our calendars. We'll argue over $100, but waste days, even years, doing things that don't light us up. And when that clock starts running out, the only thing you wish for is more time. More breakfasts with your kids, more lazy afternoons with your partner, more sunsets with no phone in your hand. One of the most powerful end-of-life lessons is this: every "I'll do it later" is a gamble you might not win. We're taught to chase happiness like it's a trophy: the house, the car, the perfect Instagram feed. But when people look back, the moments that bring a smile are rarely the big, flashy ones. It's the morning coffee shared with someone you love. It's the quiet walk in the park when the leaves were turning gold. It's hearing your child laugh until they can't breathe. Those things cost nothing, but in the end, they are everything. And yet, how often do we speed past them in search of more? Here's the truth about happiness. It's not a destination. It's those tiny, ordinary moments we've been overlooking all along. Some people carry grudges for decades, believing it's a form of justice. But in those final chapters, they see the truth. Unforgiveness is a cage you lock yourself inside. Forgiving doesn't mean saying what happened was okay. It means choosing your peace over your pain. And this doesn't just apply to others. For many, the hardest person to forgive is themselves. The mistakes they made, the words they can't take back, the opportunities they missed. When you let go, you get something priceless in return: freedom. Freedom to spend your final days with an open heart instead of a heavy one. We spend years, sometimes decades, trying to be what the world expects. Dress this way, speak this way, follow this path. But one of the biggest life regrets people confess is this: I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Chasing approval feels safe in the moment, but at the end, it feels empty. The things that make you different, those are the things that would have made your life richer, more vibrant, more yours. Living authentically isn't about being rebellious for the sake of it. It's about making sure the life you're living is the one you'd still choose if you could start over. These truths aren't new, but they are ignored until it's too late. The people who learn them early live differently. They love louder, they waste less time, they see happiness in the small things, they forgive quickly, and they dare to live on their own terms. So here's the million-dollar question you've just heard what most people only realize on their deathbed. What will you do with that knowledge while you still have the chance? The truths we've talked about so far aren't just sentimental advice from the elderly. They connect deeply to what some of the greatest minds in psychology and philosophy have been telling us for decades. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist whose work still shapes how we understand human nature, once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your own heart." Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. And this is exactly what happens at the end of life. People stop chasing what's out there and start truly seeing what's been in here all along. From a psychological point of view, this shift happens because the ego, that part of us obsessed with status, image, and comparison, begins to dissolve when faced with mortality. What remains is the self, the authentic core of who we are. Jung believed that facing death strips away the false identities we've built over time. It's as if all the masks we've worn fall to the floor, and what's left is us. Not the job title, not the bank balance, not the curated social media version of our life. Just us, raw, real, and present. The tragedy, most people don't meet this version of themselves until the very end. Here's the part that hits me hardest: this clarity isn't locked away for the dying. You can choose to access it now without waiting for a crisis or a countdown. But doing that takes courage, because living with that awareness means rethinking almost everything. How you spend your time, what you measure as success, who you give your love and attention to, what you stop tolerating just to keep the peace. It means living as if every decision leaves an imprint on the story you'll one day look back on. Let's bring this out of theory and into right now. If you're watching this, I want you to pause for a moment. Close your eyes and imagine this. You've just been told you have 1 year left to live. 365 days. No extensions. No negotiations. What would you do differently? Would you still stay in that job that drains your spirit? Would you still put off that trip you've been dreaming about for 10 years? Would you still swallow your feelings instead of telling someone you love them? The answers to those questions, that's where the real you lives. Jung talked about something called individuation, the process of becoming the person you were meant to be, not the person the world pressured you to be. The end of life forces individuation because there's no more time to pretend. But imagine if you didn't wait. Imagine if starting today, you made decisions not from fear or habit, but from alignment with your deepest values. You might disappoint some people. You might scare yourself. But you would be free. And that freedom is the kind of happiness that doesn't depend on circumstances. I've learned that life changes when we ask better questions. Instead of asking, "What do I want to achieve this year?" ask, "If this were my last year, what would I be proud to have done?" Instead of asking, "What's the safe choice?" ask, "What choice will matter to me when I'm looking back at my life?" And here's one more to carry with you. Am I living a life I would want to relive? When you live with these questions, you start cutting away the unnecessary. You stop chasing applause from strangers. You stop delaying joy. And you start building a life that would pass your own final review with no regrets. This isn't just philosophy. Science backs it up. Studies in positive psychology show that people who live with mortality awareness, the conscious recognition that life is finite, are more intentional, more compassionate, and more satisfied with their lives. The irony thinking about death makes you live more fully. So don't push this conversation away because it's uncomfortable. Lean into it. Use it. Let it guide you toward the life you'd want to look back on with a smile. If you knew you had 1 year left, what would you change today? You don't have to answer me right now, but you owe it to yourself to answer it before the clock runs out. Because the deepest truth about life isn't found in waiting for the end. It's in living so fully, so honestly, so courageously, that when the end comes, you can look back and say, I lived exactly as I was meant to live. So let's bring it all together. Life is not endless. We like to pretend it is pushing dreams to someday postponing forgiveness, waiting for the right time to start living the way we actually want. But the truth is, and I hope this has been clear someday, is not guaranteed. The deepest life truth we've explored today is this: most people only see what matters when there's no time left to act on it. But you don't have to be most people. You can take those lessons now, not as warnings, but as invitations. Here's what I've learned after hearing countless life lessons to learn early. The clock is always ticking, but that's not a reason to panic. It's a reason to be intentional. If you knew you had a limited number of sunsets left, you'd notice them more. If you knew you had only a handful of deep conversations left with someone you love, you'd make every one of them count. You have that knowledge now. What you do with it? That's up to you. I want you to think about this and share it with us in the comments. What's the single biggest lesson you've learned in your life so far? The one you'd tell your younger self or whisper to a friend who still thinks time is unlimited. When you share, you're not just adding a comment. You're leaving a map for someone else who might need to hear exactly what you've been through. I hope you don't leave this video just feeling inspired for a moment. I hope you leave with a shift in how you move through the rest of today. Call the person you've been meaning to call. Start the project you've been putting off. Forgive the person or yourself that you've been carrying in your heart for too long. Because the real way to avoid regrets in life isn't to avoid mistakes. It's to live so honestly, so intentionally, that even the mistakes become part of a story you're proud to tell. You can't control how long your life will be, but you can control how deep, how full, and how true it is while you have it. So here's my challenge to you. Don't wait until the final chapter to understand the plot. Live now with the ending in mind and write a story you'd want to read again.